You believe people see you clearly. They don't. They see fragments, silences, tensions you don't even realize you're projecting. And in those gaps, they decide whether to challenge you or fear you. Right now, as you listen, there are people around you who already know how power works. They know who dominates conversations without speaking, who controls outcomes without demanding them, who walks into a room and subtly rearranges the emotional temperature. And they know whether you are one of them or one of the many who mistake noise for strength. This is not about being liked. That illusion is for the obedient. Fear is different. Fear is respect's darker twin. Fear is what forms when the mind encounters something it cannot predict, cannot read, cannot control. Most people think fear comes from aggression, from raised voices, from obvious threats. That belief is childish. Predators do not announce themselves. They let the environment do the warning for them. The human brain evolved to scan constantly for dominance cues, not consciously, instinctively. Long before language, long before laws, the mind learned to identify who could disrupt survival, who could take resources, who could decide outcomes. That wiring never left. It only learned to wear suits and smiles. You were being evaluated all the time. How quickly you respond, how much you explain, how often you seek permission, how comfortable you are with tension. Every one of these signals places you somewhere in a hierarchy, above, equal, or below. And once placed, people treat that position as truth, even if it's based on almost nothing. The uncomfortable reality is this: most people are terrified of misjudging power. Aligning with the weak costs them. Challenging the strong costs them. So they test, subtly, constantly. A question here, a boundary push there, a moment of disrespect disguised as humor, and your reaction tells them everything. The behaviors that make people secretly fear you are not dramatic. They are quiet, controlled, almost invisible. That's why they work. Fear does not need to announce itself to be effective. It only needs to linger in the background, unresolved. Machiavelli understood this long before neuroscience gave it vocabulary. He observed that power is sustained not by force, but by perception, and perception is shaped by behavior under pressure, especially pressure you didn't choose. When you respond too quickly, you reveal hunger. When you over-justify, you reveal insecurity. When you rush to be understood, you reveal dependence. And dependence is never feared. Fear emerges when people sense that you do not need them to agree, approve, or even understand, that your center of gravity is internal, that you can withdraw attention, access, or cooperation without emotional leakage. The mind reads this as danger, not because you threaten harm, but because you threaten irrelevance. This is why silence unnerves, why restraint unsettles, why calm under provocation triggers anxiety. The brain expects reaction. When it doesn't get one, it fills the gap with imagined consequences. And imagination is far more terrifying than reality. Most people spend their lives trying to be visible, trying to be chosen, trying to be validated. They broadcast their intentions, their weaknesses, their limits. They call this honesty. It is exposure. Those who inspire fear do the opposite. They compress, they edit, they reveal only what is useful, not to manipulate, but to remain unread. And what cannot be read cannot be controlled. This is the first fracture in the listener's identity. The moment you realize power was never about what you say, but what you withhold. Never about force, but about ambiguity. Never about dominance displays, but about making others unsure where they stand with you. And uncertainty is the breeding ground of fear. What comes next will feel uncomfortable, because it dismantles behaviors you were praised for. It strips away habits that made you acceptable, cooperative, safe. But safe is never feared.
Fear deepens when people realize they cannot rush you. Most humans are slaves to tempo. They move at the speed of expectation. They answer when spoken to. They react when provoked. They explain when questioned. This creates an illusion of cooperation, but what it truly reveals is control from the outside in. When you slow your responses, something primitive activates in the other person's nervous system. Their mind starts searching for reasons. Did they say something wrong? Are they being evaluated? Have they misjudged their position? Silence stretches, and in that stretch, power quietly changes hands. The human brain hates unresolved social signals. In tribal environments, hesitation often preceded danger. A delayed response meant calculation. Calculation meant potential threat. That wiring still exists, so when you do not immediately comply with conversational rhythms, people feel exposed, like prey waiting to see if the predator commits. This is not passive. This is deliberate restraint. People who inspire fear do not rush to fill gaps. They let gaps do the work. They understand that speed is not efficiency. It is submission to another person's frame. Whoever controls pace controls emotional direction. Notice how often people rush to reassure, to soften statements, to clarify intent. This is fear of being misread, fear of disapproval, fear of tension, and fear is smelled instantly. The second behavior that unsettles others is emotional economy. You do not react proportionally to stimulus. You react selectively. Praise does not inflate you. Insults do not move you. Drama does not pull you into orbit. To the average mind, this reads as danger. Why? Because emotions are how people measure influence. If they can make you laugh, you are reachable. If they can make you angry, you are controllable. If they can make you explain yourself, you are already negotiating from below. When those levers stop working, the brain panics. People begin to test harder, louder jokes, sharper remarks, passive-aggressive comments. They want proof that you are human in the way they understand humanity, reactive, emotional, predictable. And when they don't get it, they retreat or resent you in silence. Machiavelli warned that excessive transparency weakens authority, not because honesty is bad, but because unfiltered emotion dissolves mystique. Power requires distance, not physical distance, but psychological separation. This does not mean coldness. Coldness is a reaction. What inspires fear is composure that feels chosen, not defensive. The third behavior is boundary enforcement without explanation. Most people announce boundaries like apologies. I'm sorry, but I hope this is okay. I just feel like. These phrases beg for permission to be respected. When you state limits calmly, without emotional charge, without justification, something flips. The other person realizes negotiation is not available. There is no opening, no weakness to exploit. This does not trigger anger first. It triggers recalculation, because boundaries without explanation imply authority. They imply that your decisions are self-validating, that you are not seeking consensus, that you are not afraid of friction. And friction is where hierarchy reveals itself. In nature, animals do not argue over territory. One advances, the other assesses, and one yields, not because of violence, but because of perceived certainty. Humans are no different. They just hide it behind language. Each time you hold your ground without emotional leakage, you train others how to treat you, not through confrontation,
but through consistency. Over time, people stop pushing, not because they respect you morally, but because resistance feels costly. This is how fear forms quietly. Not panic, not terror, a low-grade awareness that engaging you carelessly carries consequences they can't fully predict. And unpredictability, when paired with restraint, is lethal to the ego. The next behaviors go deeper. They cut closer to identity. They force people to confront their own dependency, their own need to be seen, their own fear of irrelevance. And once that begins, fear is no longer optional.
Fear intensifies when people realize you do not need to be included. Most people are governed by social gravity. They orbit groups, approval, invitations, shared narratives. Exclusion terrifies them because, evolutionarily, isolation meant death. So they signal belonging constantly, agreeing, laughing, aligning, adapting. They call this being social. It is actually dependency disguised as warmth. When you are comfortable on the edge, present but not needy, engaged but not absorbed, you disrupt that system. You listen more than you speak. You participate selectively. You do not chase relevance. And, most importantly, you can leave without making it dramatic. This behavior unsettles because it exposes a truth most people try to bury. They need the group more than the group needs them. When you do not display that need, you invert the equation. The mind reads this as power. Machiavelli observed that those who appear self-sufficient are granted authority even when they possess none formally. Why? Because self-sufficiency implies options. Options imply leverage. Leverage implies danger. People fear those who can walk away. Not loudly, not defiantly, quietly, cleanly. The fourth behavior is selective visibility. You are not always available, not always reachable, not always responsive. And when you are present, it feels intentional. Availability is mistaken for kindness. In reality, it is exposure. The more accessible you are, the more predictable you become. Predictability collapses fear. When people cannot access you on demand, their imagination fills the gap. Are you busy? Are you prioritizing something else? Are you withholding attention deliberately? The brain hates unanswered questions about status. It begins to assume elevation, and elevation, even if false, alters how people behave around you. They become more careful, more restrained, less casual with disrespect. This is not manipulation, it is positioning. Those who inspire fear understand that attention is currency. They do not spend it on everyone. They do not explain why. They do not announce absence. They simply redirect energy where it matters, and others feel the loss. The fifth behavior is refusal to over-identify. Most people define themselves loudly. Their opinions, their beliefs, their struggles, their labels. They cling to identity because identity gives them stability. But identity also creates handles. When someone knows exactly who you think you are, they know exactly how to provoke you. Insult the label, challenge the belief, undermine the story, and you react. Those who inspire fear remain psychologically fluid. They do not anchor their ego to any single trait. They can argue a position without becoming it. They can lose without collapsing. They can be misunderstood without correcting. This terrifies people who rely on rigid self-concepts. Why? Because fluidity cannot be pinned down, and what cannot be pinned down cannot be attacked cleanly. You become difficult to hurt, difficult to shame, difficult to corner, and the mind reads that as threat.
Fear is not about violence, it is about asymmetry, the awareness that you are playing a different game with different rules and different stakes. As these behaviors accumulate, something subtle happens. People stop testing you openly. They adjust in advance. They choose words more carefully. They avoid casual disrespect. They hesitate before pushing. Not because you demanded it, because their nervous system decided it was safer. The final behaviors complete this transformation. They shift fear from quiet respect into something sharper, something that forces others to confront their own weakness in your presence. That's when fear stops being accidental and becomes structural.
Fear becomes unavoidable when people realize you see more than you reveal. Most humans leak information constantly. Their eyes chase approval, their tone betrays anxiety, their posture confesses doubt. They believe others are too busy to notice. They are wrong. The mind is always watching for advantage. When you observe without advertising it, something shifts. You remember details others forget. You notice patterns in behavior, not stories. You recognize inconsistencies without calling them out. And you say nothing. This is the sixth behavior, strategic awareness paired with restraint. People fear being seen without being able to see back. It creates imbalance. They don't know what you've registered, what conclusions you've drawn, or how it might be used later. Even if you never intend to use it, the possibility alone alters behavior. Machiavelli understood that knowledge becomes power only when it is controlled. The moment you reveal what you know, you give others time to adapt. When you don't, they adapt blindly. This is why silence after recognition is so disturbing. A paused look, a delayed response, a neutral acknowledgement. The other person fills the gap with paranoia. Did you catch that lie? Did you notice that weakness? Are they already exposed? Their mind begins disciplining itself for you. The seventh behavior is emotional asymmetry under pressure. When stakes rise, most people escalate. Their voice sharpens, their body tightens, their emotions rush forward, desperate to defend identity. You do the opposite. Pressure makes you slower, calmer, more precise. Your emotional range narrows instead of expands. You ask fewer questions, you make fewer statements, you choose words carefully or not at all. This triggers a deep biological response. In threat scenarios, calm indicates dominance. It suggests confidence in outcome. It implies you are not the one at risk. The other person feels it immediately. Their heart rate rises, their thoughts fragment. They begin justifying, explaining, overcorrecting. They are trying to regain balance, but balance has already shifted. Fear does not always feel like intimidation. Often it feels like self-consciousness, like suddenly becoming aware of your own movements, your own words, your own vulnerability. That is what you induce, not through cruelty, through control. At this stage, people begin projecting intentions onto you. They assume calculation when none exists. They attribute depth even when you are simply disciplined. And perception, not intent, governs power. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They sense the shift and rush to soften it. They reassure, they joke, they lower themselves to restore comfort. Comfort destroys fear. Those who hold power resist that urge. They let others sit with the discomfort. They understand that anxiety is a teacher. It trains respect faster than explanation ever could. There is a warning here. Fear without restraint becomes hostility. Mystery without ethics becomes isolation. Power unmanaged invites challenge. Machiavelli did not advocate chaos. He advocated balance.
enough fear to deter attack, enough distance to command respect, enough humanity to prevent rebellion.
By now, you should feel it, the shift. Not excitement, not motivation, a tightening, a recalibration. The subtle realization that fear was never something you demanded. It was something others decided, instinctively, in response to how you occupy space. The 7 behaviors you've absorbed are not techniques. They are symptoms of a deeper posture, an internal alignment that says you are not here to be managed, rushed, decoded, or owned. People fear what they cannot place. When your tempo is your own, you are no longer dancing to their rhythm. When your emotions are disciplined, they lose leverage. When your boundaries are clean, negotiation dies before it begins. When your presence is optional, your absence gains weight. When your identity is fluid, attacks lose their target. When you observe silently, others self-correct. When pressure calms you, dominance becomes undeniable. Together, these behaviors form something rare, psychological sovereignty. Most people never reach it because it requires sacrificing comfort. You must be willing to be misunderstood, to let tension exist without rushing to resolve it, to allow others to feel unsure around you, and to resist the urge to save them from that discomfort. This is where real power begins. Fear, in its refined form, is not about intimidation. It is about consequence. The unspoken understanding that careless interaction with you carries risk, not because you are volatile, but because you are controlled. Controlled people are dangerous. They don't reveal their next move. They don't telegraph emotion. They don't chase validation. They don't explain themselves into weakness. They let others expose themselves. And this is the final inversion. The more disciplined you become, the more undisciplined others appear by contrast. Their jokes feel louder, their explanations feel desperate, their emotions feel uncontained. They begin policing themselves in your presence. This is why fear often masquerades as respect, distance, or quiet resentment. The ego hates asymmetry. It hates feeling watched while being unable to watch back. It hates sensing a hierarchy it didn't consent to. But hierarchies are not voted on. They are perceived. Machiavelli's true lesson was never cruelty. It was clarity. See people as they are, not as you wish them to be. Understand that most behavior is driven by insecurity, status anxiety, and fear of loss. Once you internalize this, you stop taking things personally, and that alone elevates you above the emotional battlefield. At this level, you no longer need to dominate. Your presence does the sorting. Some will align, some will withdraw, some will resent you quietly. Let them. Power is not about collecting loyalty from everyone. It is about being selective with who has access to you. If you misuse this knowledge, if you seek fear for ego, if you provoke for pleasure, you will invite resistance. Fear must be balanced with restraint, distance with precision, mystery with intention. The goal is not to be feared by all, it is to be underestimated by none. And now you face a choice. You can return to being legible, predictable, easy to read, easy to manage. Or you can remain disciplined, observant, unrushed, internally anchored. Most will choose comfort. They always do. Those who choose otherwise do not announce it. They signal it quietly, through how they move, how they pause, how they decide. This channel is not for everyone. It is not designed to reassure, entertain, or soften reality. It is for those who seek clarity over comfort, control over chaos, and power rooted in understanding rather than noise. If you belong to that category, you already know what to do. You don't follow voices, you align with perspectives that sharpen you. Subscribe, not as support, but as admission.